Bruce, man, we're back. This is our Take Two segment. And again, as we said earlier, we are here in Huntsville, Alabama at the Independent Theater.
Independent Cinema.
Independent Cinema. And we have the owner, Sandra Kohler, right here with us.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm all right.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Nah, thank you for having us.
I'm a little bit nervous, yeah.
Don't be nervous.
Don't be nervous. Not with us.
We're here to have a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
so,
All right.
again, this is a beautiful facility.
Yes.
We are so happy to be here. We've been here several times.
Yes. Yep.
We've been here several times. So, but this is our first time getting to talk to you on camera.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
And so we want you to share with the people what this place is and why did you decide to do this?
Yeah, so I'm the owner of Huntsville Independent Cinema, or the Independent. I started this because I thought people need to see more movies.
Okay.
They need to see movies that the streaming services may not be showing them on their algorithms. Just people need to get together as a group and watch movies. So I wanted to create a space that was felt kind of like a really cool living room, where it's just cool to hang out with friends, watch movies. I started it because when I first moved to Huntsville, I was really surprised that they didn't already have something like this. I lived in Atlanta where they've got the Plaza and the Terra, and I frequented those places. I waited around and nobody started one, and I thought, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I am. So I thought it sounded like fun, and I started it.
That's cool. Now,
how long have you guys been here in Huntsville?
So we started in March of 2025. We started doing pop-ups around Huntsville. So at bars and breweries and coffee shops, we would do pop-up screenings. And then we opened up in Lowe Mill Arts Entertainment inside that facility in October of last year.
Wow. And this is such a beautiful location, like here at Lowe Mill Arts. Like, what's it like just being here at Lowe Mill Arts?
Oh, it's great because there's so many creatives here. So there are hundreds of artists that have studios here, and they're really focused on arts, on all of the arts. So it's really great to have those creative minds and those creative people. And people wander in because they're walking around the mill, and they wander in and they see the place. And so it's been fun.
Now let me ask you this: what has the Independent done for the independent filmmaker here in Huntsville?
So we love to give a platform to independent filmmakers to screen their films. So we have a lot of Huntsville premieres.
Okay.
So we had one not too long ago out of Nashville, a film called Stalking Songbird. So that was the Huntsville. It was actually the theatrical premiere. We had it right here at the Independent.
Okay.
Yeah, we rolled out a red carpet and had pictures.
Oh, that's cool.
So the filmmaker was here and the star of the movie was here doing a Q&A. That was a lot of fun. But we are open to showing independent films. That's really what we're mostly focused on. But we also play repertory stuff. So
that's cool.
And you guys recently hosted or one of the hosts of the Southern Fried Film Festival.
Yes, we were one of the venues that they hosted their event at. So they were here Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday of last weekend. Yeah.
And what was that like?
Busy. It was hectic, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah. It was great to host them here.
Yes. Now, let me ask you this. We're all here for the B.O.M.B cinema experience.
Yes.
And how has it been working with John B.O.M and bringing that particular vibe to the people here in Huntsville?
B.O.M Cinema is one of the events that I already had. I had an idea in my mind, and all John did was he put it into motion.
That's right.
Because he had the same idea.
Yeah.
And so it's been great working with John. He puts together all the details. I'm just here to help. But it's been a lot of fun.
That's cool.
B.O.M Cinema is great. It's kind of what I pictured this space to be, is where people are coming together, they're talking about the movie, they're having conversations, and that's really what I wanted.
That's what's up.
It's awesome, and it is an amazing experience. Like I said, I've been here several times for it. Always have a great time. You get to hear live music. John is great with bringing panelists on to talk about the films, and then just getting to see like these classic films on the big screen. And I mean, it's just like nothing like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an awesome experience.
Thank you.
Yes.
Now, if people wanted to follow you on social media and learn more about your theater, or just get more information about how they can come and possibly partner with you and do some events, how can they do that?
Yeah, so on Instagram, our handle is Huntsville Independent Cinema. We're also on Facebook as The Independent HSV. And then our website is theindependenthsv.com. We've got all of our upcoming screenings and events listed on the website. You can subscribe to our newsletter. We send out usually a weekly newsletter that just says what's coming up this weekend. But that's a great way to stay in the know.
Okay, and I have one more question. Like, how often are you open? So if
We're
somebody wanted to
open-
come by.
Yeah, so we're open Thursdays through Sundays
Okay.
every week. We've got screenings every day, Thursdays through Sundays. And then starting in June, we are open some Wednesdays for special events. We
Okay.
have a film appreciation series for this summer that's happening on Wednesdays. And we've got a couple of comedy shows coming up on Wednesdays. But right now it's Thursdays through Sundays for sure.
Okay, that's cool.
Awesome. So there you have it, guys. So if you're in the Huntsville area, make sure to check out the Independent Cinema